He then notes, having girded your waist with truth. To gird oneself is to use a belt in order to draw in a garment close to the body. Ancient dress was loose and flowing, like robes, either short or long. If one was to run, they would need to have these flowing garments drawn in tightly, or they would trip over them if they were long. So you'll see that in the Old Testament. Elijah or Elisha, or one of them, I think it's Elijah, he girded himself up. And what that means is he's got these long garments, and he took them and he tucked them up in there so he can run really quickly. Because if he didn't, he would have just tripped over himself. And you'll see that in the Old Testament. He girded himself up. That's what that's speaking about. Well, in the New Testament, you got these Roman soldiers, and when they're not in battle, they've got these garments that are loose so that they're nice and cool. They're in the camp and they're walking around, and you don't have everything. You're in the Middle East or something, and you're fighting, and it's hot out. You want to have something loose. Well, they would gird everything in closely, and in the battle, a sword isn't going to get caught in a loose garment, right? And then what happens is all of a sudden you're stuck to this guy, and now he can pull out his shorter sword and he can stab you in the guts. So you don't want to have that happen. Everything needs to be in tight on a soldier's garment. Okay, if you're ever in the military, everything fits very precisely. There's nothing hanging out that shouldn't be hanging out. And I bet you, we got a friend that just retired, great guy from the Navy SEALs after all of these years. Congratulations if you're listening, Chris. Anyway, I bet you he would say that was one of the really important things, is to have everything accessible, everything very nothing hanging out where it could cause you to miss grabbing this gun or this knife or this grenade or whatever. I just would imagine that's the case, but it's certainly the case with the way your military uniforms are made. Everything is very well suited for being ready to fight. What's that?
Being efficient.
Being efficient. That's the word, efficient. Okay. The analogy is obvious, what I just said about pulling in your garments and girding them up. When one lies, it will eventually trip them up. Just think of Richard Nixon or the Clintons. But by girding oneself and drawing in the truth, there will be no room for lies. Instead, there will be freedom of movement in one's spiritual life. Okay? The person is lying. The person isn't telling the truth. And what happens? Once you lie once, now you might need to lie a second time to cover up the lie. And eventually you become, Clinton is a perfect example of that. He had so many lies that he could no longer keep track of what was the truth. And so he had to make things up like, well, it depends on what the word is means. Okay? Well, everybody knows what the word means, but he couldn't say what he needed to say without making another lie. And then it would have become more evident. All right? I was too young to understand what was going on in Nixon, but I do know that he got himself in a situation, and it cost him the presidency. Should have been the case with Clinton, but unfortunately we just kept on rolling with that guy. Anyway, next.